Welcome everyone to the fifth episode of the Boys Hub Live. Today, we're meeting with former USC and University of Pittsburgh quarterback and college football analyst for SiriusXM and Watch Stadium, Max Browne. I'm Evan.
I'm Noah.
I'm Alex.
What's up? I'm Jack.
Okay, Max, how are you doing today?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for being
Today,
here.
we're
Yes,
going to ask
sir.
you some questions and talk some football. Let's get right into it. So, Max, being ranked the #1 pro-style quarterback in the 2013 class, what was the recruiting process like in high school, and why did you ultimately choose USC?
Yeah, let's see. It was a lot different than where it is now. I always talk about, like, I was class of 2013, like you said, and that was kind of the cutoff between, I feel like, pre-Instagram and like post-Instagram, or pre-Twitter and post-Twitter. That was kind of the class that was halfway in, halfway out on that. So, yeah, but it was, I went to a big time high school in the state of Washington. We were nationally ranked, had a bunch of big time recruits, and I actually replaced the #1 quarterback in the country. His name was Jake Heaps, to the class of 2009. And so as a sophomore, I kind of was burst onto the scene a little bit there. I did like the camp circuit and all that in middle school. So I kind of was a name in that neck of the woods, but then had a successful sophomore year and put up a bunch of numbers. And then from there, it kind of took off and I became kind of a national name. And to make a long story short, basically, if we're being honest, I got pretty much every offer I wanted, had my pick of the litter. And at the time, SC was the #1 team in the country, as I'm sure you guys could probably remember, with Matt Barkley, Robert Woods, all that. That's when I was a high school junior, and then I decided to commit to Lane Kiffin and his staff. But yeah, man, it was wild, but it was a good process. I always try to be respectful to coaches and whatnot, and not try to play games and some of the stuff you see online. But yeah, basically came down between Alabama, Oklahoma, and USC, and I wanted to stay on the West Coast. I grew up kind of an SC fan from afar with Reggie and Matt, and it was really a dream come true.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about how the recruit? Because I know now there's some really strict recruiting rules on when you can communicate with coaches and when you can't. How have the rules changed from then to now?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I don't think I know every nuance in and out. I just know when I was there, like there was a few big dates. One was kind of signing day your junior year, so the year before you're actually signing on the dotted line. That's when a lot of teams kind of turn the page on their recruiting cycle. And so I remember I got a lot of offers that day. Like I remember it was cool. Like Nick Saban in my art class, like gave me a call. That was super dope. And like Bob Stoops. Those were two names that day is a day I remember. And then also I think it's like September 1 of your senior year. When I was in it, you could take official visits. Now it's a lot earlier, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like September 1 of your junior year is when, or no, it's September 1 of your senior year is when coaches could call you like on the phone, rather than when I was in it, you had to call them. That was how they kind of had to, or at least you had to call them up until your senior year. Senior year was when it was kind of game on, and they could blow up your phone. But before that was different. I think everything's just sped up now. So I'm pretty sure it's at least like a few months, half a year, if not a whole year ahead now. Because, like I said, 2013 was kind of the cutoff year where it was kind of, we were halfway in the old school mentality, like pre-internet, I guess you could say, and then halfway into this new school mentality where it's so easy to get a hold of everyone. And yeah, no, it was that's kind of how it was. But I was committed to SC before my senior year, so a lot of those rules, like, it wasn't as chaotic as it for me as it was for some guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So, amidst all of the turmoil in your experience at USC and Pitt, what would you say was the most positive thing that came out of it?
You guys got all the SC stuff. This is dope. Most positive experience. I would say, yeah, if we're being honest, I always say like my SC experience wasn't that like amazing. I mean, if we're being honest, like, I mean, I say that not to be selfish or whatever. Like it was a blessing to be able to go out and play for SC. It was a blessing to be able to get my school paid for. It was a blessing to be able to obviously play for SC. All those were awesome. I was super, super fortunate. But when you talk about kind of where I was at my senior year of high school with the expectations going into school and then what transpired, it it was not exactly how I kind of drew it up. And so I think the biggest lesson I took with me, and I'm 25 now, so I'm a bit removed from it, is just being tested and persevering and pushing in all those competition battles with Cody and competition battles with Sam and getting the short end of the stick there. I mean, that really tests you, especially with kind of the work you're putting in at that level. It's a full-time job. It's every single day. So to not really get the result that I wanted, I think it tests you, and that experience and that resilience is something that I feel like I take with me pretty much every day from here on out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underappreciate how hard D1 athletes work. Like, I don't think they realize how round the clock schedule they have.
Totally, totally, and yeah, I think I always kind of prided myself as a guy who was a work hard guy, and I mean, kind of the don't get out worked mentality. So when you talk about, I mean, yeah, like you said, in high school, for me at least, it was kind of, you had football season, you had basketball season, and then I did like off season football stuff. It was like seasons. With Division I football, it's literally year round. You get a couple of weeks off at Christmas, depending on when your bowl game is. You get like a spring break. You get another week at like summer, and like that's it, and it's all ball all the time. And I love that part, seriously. That part was awesome. So I know for some guys it kind of wears them down and all that. I enjoyed the grind, as cliche as that is. It was fun. It was awesome being able to train as a USC Trojan, and like you're training for something bigger than yourself, which is awesome. It's the legacy. It's the paintings you guys have on your walls right now, all that stuff. I mean, you definitely feel that, and that's a big reason why I went to SC.
So your story is really inspirational. So how did you manage to persevere through all the hardships that came with being a D1 quarterback?
Yeah, I get variations of that question all kind of all the time, and I always point it back to my parents. I'm fortunate to have two parents that I'm very thankful how they raised me. It was definitely kind of a work first, then play mentality. It was definitely kind of a leave your ego at the door mentality. And I think when I was tested in my college career, that's something that I kind of was able to always fall back on and not waver from. But I think, I mean, growing up, I mean, football became serious for me early. I mean, like I mentioned, I replaced in my hometown. I mean, in 2009, that we had the number one quarterback in the country, and so when he left, it was a huge void. And I remember, like at seventh grade, kind of being the guy that was like, "All right, you're gonna have to Max Brown's gonna have to replace Jake." And so, really, from a young age, it was serious. It was intense. I went to a big. I know it's Washington, and you kind of think Florida and Texas for big football communities, but it was big in my hometown, kind of that football and that legacy. So I almost, that pressure was something I never really didn't know like what football was like without it, and so it wasn't a huge adjustment necessarily going to SC and having that pressure and that like legacy to back. And don't get me wrong, SC is a lot more intense than high school, but I think that train of thought or that thought process prepared me well when I did get to SC. But a lot of it's kind of looking yourself in the mirror and kind of what are you made of, and you don't really know exactly how you're going to react until that circumstance comes up, and then it's kind of just on all the elements you kind of tell yourself daily, and that kind of shows its head when things hit the fan.
Yeah. So, do you have any words of advice for people that may be going through similar situations as yours?
Yeah, right when I hear you say that, the word that sticks out to me is just perspective. Like keep it like I was on at a call with someone. Like the reality is, like I'm one of the biggest busts, if not the biggest bust in college football history, and like that shakes people, right? Like in terms of where I was at rating wise, and then what I got out of my college career, it didn't live up to the hype. But because of kind of the perspective I was able to keep, and not going down a negative path when you're in it, like in 2016 and 2017 and all that. Uh, I think when you keep the long term kind of mindset at hand, and then know there's more to life out there than football, as hard as that is to hear. I was a football guy through and through, but knowing that in the back of your mind, I think that served me well. But yeah, surround yourself with great people. I mean, it's all the stuff that you kind of hear. That's something I'm thankful for. My friends, with my friends and family, it never was about football. Was never first. It was kind of just like the human being, the relationship, the friendship, and I'm forever grateful, because then when football didn't necessarily work out, my world wasn't blown up. Versus a lot of guys, their world is football first, football second probably, and then the relationships and kind of the human element comes third and fourth. And when football doesn't necessarily work out, they don't know what to do with their world, or shoot, I still don't even know what to do with my life. But it's the thought process that there's at least another path out there, and you can there's something beyond football, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Was being an
Yeah.
analyst something you always had kind of in the back of your head that you might want to do?
Yeah, you guys will like this. It's kind of funny. When I was backing up Cody, we would do like Friday walkthroughs, and backup quarterbacks don't get any reps on Fridays. And a lot of it's kind of just on air, just walking through the plays for the week. And I don't know how it started, but I would they would do like 2-minute drills, and I would like announce them on the sideline. So I would, like, me and like a GA would just play like color do play-by-play and color commentary and just kind of like screw around. But then it was kind of like something funny, like people would like circle around and listen to and kind of get a joke out of it. And then so I think when that happened, I was like, I was kind of like, oh, when football ends, whenever that is. And at the time I was thinking, oh, it'll end in 20 years when I'm 38 or whatever. I was like, oh, I'd love to give this a try because I love football. Even though it didn't maybe necessarily work out for me, football will always be a part of my life. And the coaching route, it feels like it's either you kind of go broadcasting or coaching if you want to stick around football. And that lifestyle to me is way too brutal. I feel like I'd be good at it. I feel like I'd love Saturdays in college football, but that lifestyle is nuts, which is so I think the media outlets kind of my avenue for sticking around the game.
Yeah. So to elaborate on your career as an analyst, what are your aspirations?
Yeah, I mean, like Kirk Herbstreit, right? Like being the big time game, play by play and then color. I want to do color commentary. But I'd love to call, big time college football games. Having not played in the NFL, I think that's going to be a tougher route, which is why I kind of stick to college football. But yeah, the Kirk Herbstreits, the Joel Klatts, the Yogi Roth at a Pac-12 network. That's kind of what I envision myself. But I do envision. I mean, a lot of those guys, it's hard to make that your full-time gig year-round. So I'll stick with keep doing like businessy stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, that's the goal at some point down the line.
Yeah, super cool.
So I know you've been working with SiriusXM Stadium and USC Athletics. So how has that experience been?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I'll start with the SiriusXM. That was great. Actually, kind of a funny story. I was trying to get an agent this time last year, a broadcasting agent. So I was like making YouTube videos and trying to break through and getting a little bit of traction. I was trying to get an agent, and I played this pickup basketball game at like 6 a.m. in New York. I was living in New York at the time, and this guy I was playing with, I didn't know. But long story short, he ended up being a broadcasting agent. We like hit it off at the pickup basketball game. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to represent you." He had it in at SiriusXM, and they gave me like a trial show. I was hosting with Guy Haberman, and it worked out. And they kind of gave me a few more gigs. And just like anything in life, you get one, you kind of get two, then you get four, and that part's been awesome. And just like any of this stuff, just like with you guys in your podcast, and the more reps you get, the better you'll be. And that's definitely the case for me with SiriusXM. So that's been awesome. Obviously Corona's kind of put a halt to that a little bit just because they don't have as many gigs for guys like me trying to break in, but that's been awesome. And then USC Athletics, that was cool, right? I think for a lot of guys, when you transfer, you don't usually get an opportunity to come back to that school. Usually that's just kind of, hey, you transferred and you kind of move on, and the next school is kind of your school, I guess you could say. A lot of guys transfer with bad blood, and a lot, if we're being honest, burnt bridges with the previous school. And luckily it kind of gets back into my perspective point. That was not the case for me. I kind of kept good graces with a lot of people there. And so when there was an opportunity at USC for a broadcasting radio gig, they knew I was trying to break in. They saw my YouTube videos, gave me a call, and was able to make it happen. And that was awesome. I was flying back and forth. I was living in New York, doing it in LA. So I was flying back and forth, which is nuts. But at 24, it was a cool experience. And yeah, hopefully they give me another year this year, or hopefully I have college football. And if we do, hopefully they have me back.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving on to some predictions. What are your predictions for the Power 5 conferences next season?
Let's see. I mean, I think SC is the favorite in the South for sure. I mean, it's them and Oregon. I'll go Oregon. I'll pick Oregon to win right now. But I'm hesitant. I mean, they're replacing a lot on offense, but I just think with their recruiting and where SC's program's at, like it feels like they can't win the big one, or at least they're not over the hump right now. So I'll go Oregon in the Pac-12. I think Big 12. Big 12 is fascinating. You talk about Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Texas, and then Baylor. I mean, those are 5 teams that are all going to be kind of right there. I think with a shortened offseason, I just think it's make or break at Texas. That's kind of my dark horse pick with Sam Ehlinger. I think Texas might get it done. And then let's see, Big Ten, I'll go Ohio State. They're just reloading. I mean, those stats of like the guys they're getting drafted, that's just ridiculous. I think Michigan's kind of, it feels like they've plateaued a little bit and they lose a lot. I think I just did a YouTube video. Michigan's like 117th in the country and how many guys they have to, or like in production returning, meaning they have like not that much returning. So that'll be tough. Penn State, they're there, but I'll go Ohio State. ACC, Clemson, we all know that. It's Clemson and no one else. And then who else? SEC. Ooh, SEC. Everyone loves Florida. A&M's a little dark horse. LSU's got a ton of guys to replace. I'll go Georgia. I think Jamie Newman's going to make that transition smooth. I mean, for 3 or 4 years, we've seen Jake Fromm, and that offense is – Fromm's good, but they haven't really had that mobile element. I think Jamie Newman, if he can not try to do too much, that's where he got in trouble at Wake Forest, is sometimes he does too much and kind of chucks the ball up there. But if he can just say, hey, I got all the skill players in the world, let me just kind of stick within the system. He's an older guy. I think Georgia will win the SEC.
Okay.
Great.
Who's your Heisman prediction for next season?
Ooh, I'll go Sam Ehlinger. I think senior year, little revenge year. I think that's the word that sticks out. I feel like they were talking a big game at the end of the 2018 season, kind of flopped in 2019. Injuries killed him, which I feel like a lot of people forget about on defense, especially. Like they were just decimated by injuries. So if they can stay healthy, he puts up the passing and running numbers he's got. Sam Ehlinger. Yeah, I'll go with him.
I think another quarterback in the Big 12 that can make some noise is Brock Purdy. I think he's my dark horse Heisman pick. Going for almost 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns last season. I think Iowa State, like you said, you had who's your Big 12 dark horse pick?
Texas, if you count that as a dark horse pick, just because I feel like not a lot of people are thinking, I don't know, they might not be at the top.
I think Iowa State can, win the Big 12 personally.
I'm with you. Yeah, Brock Purdy, he's legit. I did a special on him like before last season. They kind of had to let down a little bit as well, but he's legit. And yeah, I mean, you talk about him and like Keaton Slovis, small town Arizona guys that are now like balling on the national stage. That's yeah, they're getting it done.
Yeah, might be a little biased here because I'm a diehard Miami fan, but I think a lot of people might be sleeping on Derek King with Rhett Lashley's new spread offense. Could be something. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm with you. He's played a lot of football too. It feels like Miami, they've been trying to find a quarterback for like 3 years. So if he can just go out and play, and
yeah,
I think it's a big deal when you talk about a lot of these teams not having off seasons. And so like a lot of these, like if you have a guy who has played a lot of football versus a guy, I mean, a lot of these teams are trying to find answers. Well, Derek King, he's played 4 seasons already. I think that's an advantage with a lot of these shortened off seasons. And yeah, Miami's got the talent, and yeah, them or Florida State. If one of those teams could pop, that would make the ACC a lot more interesting and the state of Florida a lot more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on how coronavirus will affect the college football season next year?
Yeah, let's see. I think it'll delay the start date. I just don't see. I don't see college football starting on time. Yeah. I mean, if we haven't played basketball yet, I think like basketball to me is a lot easier to play with no fans. Like football, like I can't imagine not playing with fans, and they might have to get creative. But I just think if basketball hasn't played yet, and we're already May 1, and it feels like no one's talking about starting until, I mean, like getting life back to normal until like June 1, then you're talking about filling stadiums, and 3 months after that, to me, that's a hard sell. So I think it'll delay it. I think some other impacts. I think a lot of guys will come in out of shape, and I think I would not be surprised if the injury rate is a lot higher. Which then I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more true freshmen play because there's just a lot more injuries. So that will be interesting to see. And then I'm sure if it's delayed in 2020, I'm sure it'll affect the 2021 off season. So yeah, a lot of that stuff. I mean, it's going to be a trickle down effect. It'll affect some of the seniors, right? If eligibility comes into play, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I think it all comes down to when life gets back to normal, and a lot of the impacts, I'm sure we won't truly see until many months, if not a year from now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on college athletes being able to accept like commissions based off their name and stuff like that in the future?
Yeah, I think it's about time. I've never been so far one way or the other. I think to me the concept of like Title IX and having it be somewhat fair, which you never really can have it totally fair, but between men and women, I think that's always a fair concern. I think the concern of, all right, it's going to be easy for USC and Alabama to pay their guys, but what about Oregon State and Washington State and Arizona? Like those schools, does the playing field become uneven? Like I think those concerns are fair, but I also think, hey, it's 2020, it's time to make it happen. But I just, I'm not like totally like, oh, it's an absolute no-brainer. Pay them, open the floodgates, let them make their money. But it's time. When I was in school, it was obviously a hot topic, and I just think the easiest way in is what they're kind of doing now. Is you can make money off your name and likeness rather than it being, hey, the school's giving you a paycheck or something like that. I think the name and likeness. So Juju Smith-Schuster, when he's a junior in college, if he's branded himself and if he's put the work in to say, hey, Twitch, pay me to play Call of Duty on your console, like he can do that. Just like my girlfriend who's a volleyball player, she's done a good job branding herself on YouTube. If a company wants to pay her to advertise on her YouTube video, like she can do that. So it's kind of like the work you put in on your name and likeness, like, hey, it's an open market, just like our entire economy is. So I think that's the way to do it. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think a lot of guys who may have hid behind a shell a little bit, or maybe not leveraged social media as much, or not leveraged relationships and shaking hands and the Trojan network, that kind of stuff, I would not be surprised if they're allowed to get paid if a lot more guys become savvy with it. The example I always use is like two examples, like Leon McQuay, for that name. If you guys remember, he was a safety in my class. Like he made beats, right, for like rappers and brands. Like he would just make, he would like produce beats. Like he wasn't able to get paid at all for that. You talk about when guys are going to get now, like moving forward on name and likeness, I think guys are going to get creative. Like whether it's music, whether it's the talkative defensive back that goes to like kids' birthday parties and gets paid an hour to show up for 20 minutes at a kid's birthday party, like random stuff like that. I think people are going to get creative with and make some money, and I think it's going to be awesome, and it's about time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, for sure.
Yeah, I think some of the NCAA rules are just like absolutely ridiculous, though. Like what Chase Young got suspended for last year, because he accepted a loan to be able to fly his family out to a bowl game, and then he paid it off. Like that's just crazy.
It's crazy. I think it was too harsh, but I will say, because I push back when people say this all the time, like, so if you allow that, then like where do you draw the line? So so then if you can take a loan of $600 for a plane ticket, sure, it's $600 in the grand scheme of things, not that much. But then all right, so then someone's gonna take a loan for a car because their mom needs a car, you know? And so it's always like, where do you draw the line? But I'm with you. That felt a little too harsh. And I was joking. I was on air. If they weren't playing, or like they played like Northwestern the next week, so like it didn't really matter if he got suspended. But if they were playing Penn State, you better believe that would have been a lot more controversial and a lot more in the media for sure.
Yeah. And then, so I have a question as a USC fan. I know Alex is a USC fan as well. Who do you think on that offense is going to replace a big target like Michael Pittman?
Yeah, so they kind of have the guys right in line. So it's probably Brew McCoy or Kyle Ford.
Drake London.
If I'm him, though, I like Drake London in the slot. He's kind of found a nice little niche being a Aaron Hernandez type, like where he's he's too quick for a bigger linebacker, but he's too big for a smaller safety kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I've talked to Kerry Colbert, their offensive or their receiver coach, and maybe Amon-Ra moves outside to get him more looks, kind of one-on-one. So if you go Amon-Ra and Tyler Vaughns, and then kind of do they're talking about that Bryant kid in this slot as well. Who knows? But they got weapons more than they know what to do. But I would not be surprised if Amon-Ra moves outside more just to get him more one-on-one matchups.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at a pretty good season for SC right now, especially with Slovis in the backfield throwing the ball because he looked really good.
They find answers at left tackle and right tackle. They'll be and stay healthy on the offensive line. They'll be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got weapons on the offensive side of the ball.
Totally.
What about for the NFL? Do you think that the 49ers and Chiefs could have a repeat in the Super Bowl, or do you think it's going to be a little different?
Let's see. The Chiefs are going to be hard to beat. I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who they picked up in the first round. I think that's a perfect fit for that offense. I mean, he's so good out of the backfield, and I mean, he's patient in the running game. So, like, that was a sneaky, really good pick. So, yeah, I think the Chiefs are hard to bet against. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, the Bucs will be fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of like go towards them, but they'll be fascinating to watch. Feels like the Saints, like I know for 2 or 3 years now, it's been like, all right, this is the last go around. It's like now or never, but it feels like this upcoming year is really, truly going to be that. Like, hey, Breeze's clock is ticking. Like it's now or never type vibes, but I think the NFC is wide open. But yeah, AFC, I'll go Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chiefs in Baltimore for sure.
Yeah.
AFC
With
Championship.
Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd Baltimore get in the first round?
They got Patrick Queen.
And they got J.K. Dobbins also.
Yeah.
That's dope. That'll be if Lamar stays healthy, he's big time.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the Colts too, picking up Jonathan Taylor and Pittman, seeing what they do with that.
Phil Riv, I love Phil Riv. That defense is rock solid. That offensive line's deep. So that'd be fun too. Yeah.
Yeah. Max, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
appreciate it
so
a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and hit me up whenever. Love to hop on, especially during quarantine. You got more time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, of course. See you guys.
Peace
See
out.
ya.
Thank you. See you.
Peace.